Right, as you can see, we are very much setting up for our next session, and hydrogen, ladies and gentlemen, has long been hailed as a cornerstone of the clean energy transition, of course. But the real challenge lies not in its vision, but in scaling production, infrastructure, and deployment to very much match global demand. So it's time now to explore what it will take to move from promising pilots to large-scale, commercially viable solutions. So to tell us more, I'm absolutely delighted to now welcome Dragos Fundulea, who's the Vice President of Sustainable Practice at Kearney, and his panel. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have the opportunity to discuss one of the subjects which are on the top of the agenda, how to scale renewable hydrogen for mobility, for industry. We have a great panel today with a lot of people representing the industry, especially related to mobility. So with no further ado, I would invite us to start the discussion with our speakers. And maybe to start and kick off actually this discussion, I'll start with Faouzi. You are at the forefront of engineering, of designing a new system that, of course, will adhere and you're hoping for achievement of sustainability goals. But I'm sure that you have engineering cost-related challenges in terms of the design that you are trying to resolve in terms of scaling up the system altogether, be it modular hydrogen or the system itself, the vehicle. Tell us more about your current development cycle and where do you stand with your Namx vehicle.
Okay. Thank you again for your invitation. I'm very happy to be here today in Riyadh. I'm Faouzi Annajah, founder and CEO of Namx. Namx for new automotive and mobility exploration. It's a new hydrogen car company, premium, and we want to bring passion for driving with less or no pollution, thanks to hydrogen or e-fuels. And we think about only one point is consumer. We bring the problem with the consumer, how we can provide easier and faster hydrogen to consumer, and we work on technology. The capsule of hydrogen is a swapping system, empty capsule against a full capsule on a gas station, to have the first step, first solution to provide this hydrogen molecule to the consumer. That's the point. But it's not only about hydrogen. I think if we want to build a real ecosystem, a real market about hydrogen or e-fuels, we have to find a consumer. It's good to have a big company and hydrogen for industry, but if we don't target consumer, it will be very tough to build a big ecosystem. So, as a CEO of Namx, it's my job every day to work with engineering, design, cost engineering, and hydrogen distribution to find a consumer solution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good luck, of course, when it's a very important one.
Yeah, thank you.
We shift now maybe to another mode of transport. And Ralph, over to you in terms of maybe telling a bit of story about which kind of hydrogen-based alternative fuels, derivatives of hydrogen, do you see as having the most traction in the following decade for maritime operations?
Mm-hmm. So we as a private equity fund we focus on sustainable shipping. And our focus is along the value chain of shipping. So it could be wind sails, could be anything. But in this context, obviously, we talk about hydrogen and its derivatives. Why? Because fuels are the biggest lever to decarbonize shipping. And we're speaking about millions of tons of product. The fuels you refer to are hydrogen directly, are methanol and ammonia. And they all have their pluses and minuses. And I will not forget to use the battery as well. But this is about it. Then you may have biofuels. So if you look at that portfolio of fuels, the shipping industry will have to make a decision. But there is no silver bullet. What you will see is battery technology for short distances, short utilization. The next logical step is utilization of hydrogen. Do we see a clear winner there, if it is going to be a fuel cell or if it's going to be combustion engine? No, but there will be applications for that. If you look at Europe, for example, there's a lot of inland shipping, 10,000 ships on the rivers. There's limited options they have. Battery is not strong enough for most applications, so what's next? Hydrogen would be a logical step for them to use. And I'm thinking in China, that's also something which might be valid there. Methanol is right now being hyped in the shipping industry. Why? It is almost a drop-in fuel. It is easy to produce and it's easy to use and it's not toxic. Shouldn't drink it, didn't advise this, but it's not toxic really. But it has an issue. You need a lot of CO2 to produce methanol. And once you burn it, once you use it, the CO2 goes back in the air. If you get that CO2 up front from a biogenic source, you're fine. If you capture it from the air, you're fine as well. But the drawback is here. There are more industries than just shipping. Think about aviation. They do not have the bouquet of options the shipping industry has. They can only go back to eSAF or maybe far away in the future, hydrogen and a few battery electric applications. So the CO2 will actually be mostly going, and that is now my personal belief, mostly to the aviation industry, eSAFs. And that leaves ammonia as one derivative. No CO2 involved, nitrogen you capture from the air, reacted with hydrogen, and you get ammonia. Easy to do. Has one drawback, it's toxic, very toxic for people and for anything what lives in the oceans. If there are accidents, yet that will be the go-to fuel for all ocean-going vessels where there is not a civilian on board, where you have professional staff on board. And this, I think, captures pretty much in a nutshell what I believe is going to happen. Mid-term, methanol. Mid to long term is going to be, for the right applications, hydrogen and ammonia. Methanol will be there. Cruise ships, for example.
E-methane? No.
Very good question. But then it's a business case. It's the same as in methanol. In e-methane, you still need CO2.
Yes.
From some source. And there will be a lot of households all over the world around, which also then compete for the same material and industrial applications. If the shipping industry can pay more, very simply speaking, then e-methane might be a way to go to. Okay. So we do see shipping companies now asking for e-methane, but even for us, it's not so clear yet where the journey will go.
Thank you so much. We shift again on the land-based applications. And maybe, Feilong, you can share with us some of the lessons that other regions can actually adopt or learn from China's approach to planning and scaling infrastructure related to hydrogen corridors.
Sure. Thank you, Horst, for the question. And just a brief introduction for myself and our company. My name is Feilong, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Hyperview. We are maker and designing for the hydrogen-powered truck, and we see the heavy-duty transportation. They is a very good playground for the hydrogen because in China and in past 10 years we see the rising of the electric vehicle, and the first batch will be the very good for the passenger car. For the regular passenger car, you're charging for one-time charging, good for 1 week driving. But that's not the case for the truck. The truck usually require much higher energy to drive because truck stay on the road for more than 8 hours a day. Most people driving daily and the passenger car not more than 3 hours a day. So driving 8 hours a day and especially for long road distance, and that require frequent energy replenishment. So stop frequently, recharging by electricity every time takes 2 hours. Then go. That's simply not acceptable for the many logistic purpose. So that's why the hydrogen has a play here. hydrogen can refuel within 10 minutes, can go for very good, say, 400 kilometer to, say, sometime we can go to 1,000 kilometer per refuel. And so that's very good technology for commercial vehicle. That's why we put our effort on developing the hydrogen-powered truck. And however, we see electric trucks still very good, complement each other with a hydrogen-powered vehicle, because fundamentally, I think that so far, electric trucks still the cheaper TCO to run, total cost ownership. By 20 halala, 10 halala per kilowatt hour energy price here by electricity is still a cheapest way to run. The problem is just the electric truck doesn't go, say, beyond 200 or 300 kilometer per recharge. So EV truck very good for short distance, where you have a relatively fixed route every day, come to depot, recharging, go out and come back again in the evening. For anybody has a very regular, fixed, short distance run, electric truck is a good fit. However, if you want the longer distance run, you have a little bit more random truck, you are taking your order by your customer anywhere you can go, hydrogen may be a better choice, And so we see the hydrogen truck and electric truck can be a very good mix each other. Speaking of this scaling up the hydrogen truck business, or maybe in general sense in terms of for the hydrogen car, whatever, we see the cost is the king, particularly the fuel cost. Nobody will buy the truck, especially in the large scale, buy a lot of truck if the fuel is too expensive. It's easy to talk about people buy one truck or buy one fancy electric car, hydrogen car from you, say the very good looking car, but that's for the excitement, right? For the PR, for excitement, whatever. But however, if you want to say you want to buy 100 truck, you have to come down to run the math, right? How much cost to run, operate, and how much compare to the diesel fleet, whatever, right? And that become a trouble, especially I think for the kingdom. I've tried to speak the truth, right? And the kingdom has been the diesel in kingdom has been heavily subsidized, and to the very low level that make hydrogen fuel very difficult to compete. That's just a simple fact, I mean, compared to their neighbor countries, say UAE, the diesel cost here is roughly 40% less. Compared to Europe, maybe the price here only about 20 or 30% of European diesel price. So that make hydrogen truck to sell in Saudi in this country that require very cost competitive fuel, hydrogen fuel to support the hydrogen truck or even the broader sense the hydrogen car business to be in the large scale deployed. And for that reason, I think particularly for Saudi market, we need a very cost competitive technology to produce hydrogen in a very low cost level. And we see this country has a great potential. The country has a very good solar panel, solar potential here, and the average sunlight time in Saudi is about 3,000 hours per year. It's way beyond, say, in China, roughly about half of the number in Saudi. And it's better than most of the world, most areas in the world. So I think Saudi is very blessed to have this very good natural environment producing the PV solar panel energy. And then if you convert to the hydrogen, take 50 kilowatt hour electricity for 1 kilo hydrogen, that means roughly half US dollar will be your net cost for producing hydrogen. However, then there are other cost factors come to play, the transportation cost, refueling infrastructure cost, whatever. There's other number. When add together here, the cost here need to be balanced, And so what I want to say here is I think that will be combined effort in the kingdom to build the cheaper hydrogen fuel supply and refueling infrastructure. And I think in that regards, China may have something to share that China has been betting heavily on electric vehicle in the past 10 years. Now with the electric vehicle passing, say, a 30% penetration rate, China sells roughly 20 million cars a year, and right now roughly 30% are electrified already. Now with that goal achieved, now Chinese government put effort in the hydrogen car, hydrogen truck. And I mean, I think in China the common view is the truck a little bit more better sense for the hydrogen because for the reason I said about the charging problem. And so I know in China in the past 5 years, Chinese government put roughly 10 billion Chinese RMB, roughly maybe less than $2 billion US dollar, 1.5 million US dollar, billion US dollar for the hydrogen ecosystem development.
So the key you're saying is the price of the hydrogen, for sure.
Yes.
So basically, if we shift now to something which maybe the price of the hydrogen is less important in the grand scheme of life, and motorsport has been historically a great influencer of customer perception. And you are the lucky CEO of Extreme H, Ali. You are able to play a similar role in building maybe public trust, excitement around hydrogen with the vehicles and the tournaments that you are providing.
Yeah, well, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Great to be here, great to be back. We actually had the first hydrogen race was held about 35 kilometers from here in Korea, and that was an FIA World Cup in October 2025. So we made history, and the reason we made history is hydrogen racing does not exist at this moment in time. And what we've set out to do is, with the FIA, create the world's first ever hydrogen racing series. And the important thing about racing is it's really an accelerator. So if you look at history of, let's say, a sport like Formula One, you've got traction control, you've got fuel injection, even safety aspects like seatbelts that we put on every day or wing mirrors that we use, all came from racing. That philosophy of 1 year of racing is equivalent to 10 years of R&D. So what we look at, and I think the price of hydrogen is a major issue, but we don't look at solving everything at once. What we look at doing is creating a platform. And when you're looking at these new technologies, and you've got to remember, our group, our investment group, we founded Formula E 13 years ago in Beijing, which was an electric motorsports racing in city centers. And people said to us, it'll never work. It's going to be boring. The cars have no noise. The technology isn't ready. The cars will stop halfway through the race because the battery's not big enough. And in many ways, we had challenges, and you have challenges when you deal with new technology. And I think Ralph's comment's a really good one, which is, we're not looking at a silver bullet here to solve all of the climate challenges that the world has. What we're looking at is creating a platform, and there will be a portfolio of solutions. There'll be a portfolio of solutions in the airline industry, in sea transportation, in road transportation, in even how we make steel and cement in those heavy emitting industries. And what we're looking at is how do we use that, the prism of sports, the wonderful bringing together that sport has, how do we use that vehicle to test the production of hydrogen? There's pink, there's blue, there's green, there's all sorts of colors. What we want is to facilitate the efficiencies of hydrogen, which has benefits in terms of moving forward. The second aspect is storage, logistics, refueling, and then of course propulsion. And I'm glad that we talked about fuel cell and combustion engine. We use fuel cell at the moment, but we are open to manufacturers coming in with different technologies, like the combustion engine, to look at that. So I don't know, is the video going to show at all, or we were going to show a video here, but is it ready to roll or not? Just to give everyone.
We can ask the colleagues, when is it ready?
Is the video ready?
We can leave it a few seconds,
Yeah.
and then we can come back to the...
No worries.
Okay, but we opened the discussion about different technologies, right? And I think that's a good perspective of having different applications being used in different use cases. Maybe, Faouzi, you can share a bit your thoughts regarding, because you're operating, maybe you will operate also in markets where, for example, battery electric technology will be widespread or available in those markets. What do you think will be the differentiating factor of your hydrogen vehicles to compete effectively and to capture some of the consumer preferences that you were mentioning earlier?
I think the first point, if we talk about car industry, is about the short time recharge. And we have to go to the basic of the automotive industry, a long range, a short time recharge, and in addition, if you can have a sound, it's perfect. Because if we be very clear about that, if there is no issue about pollution, I think we'll all agree that we'll bring ICE and gasoline car, but we can't continue like that. So I think the main point for consumer is to have a very easy solution way to recharge a car. It's the first fear about the car industry, about the EV cars, the fear to have no EV station. And I hope and we believe that thanks to hydrogen, we can have a short time recharge and a long range. That's the point. And for a premium company, you can see on the markets all big OEM in premium company markets. They try to go only on EV cars, EV supercars, and it's very tough for them. So I think we have to learn and to learn about consumer again. And when you talk about consumer, they want for 90% of premium markets, IC engine. So it's a deal. It's a consumer task.
No, of course. And, we need to cater exactly for different needs and with the lowest environmental.
But just in comparison to battery car, I think for the next 20 years, I think the mass market will be EV cars. I believe that for cities it will be EV cars, and for premium market it will be hydrogen or e-fuels, and for racing it will be a mix between EV, ICE engine. It's a mix, but I think for F1 racing, I think it will be ICE engine. That's my point.
Well, maybe I can add something to it, if I'm allowed.
Please, of course.
I believe battery charging times will dramatically reduce over time. However, to the point, there's not going to be a silver bullet. And when I'm asked, do you see a future in hydrogen vehicles, like passenger cars, I usually say I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if they would still be around or if they would re-emerge. And the reason why I think that is I was just talking to my esteemed colleague here, hydrogen prices will continue to fall. They will. And they will be produced in regions just like here. And in order to electrify industrial nations, where I'm from, like Germany, that will cost a lot of money. If I'm depending on public chargers, you see already today, and I have an electric car, it is more expensive than driving a diesel. So if anybody wants to tell me that when Germany has to rip out literally every single cable there is to cater for all the electrification, prices will not come down. They will at least remain the same. And then suddenly you see, if you're able to produce locally or import hydrogen to lower prices, you will have, even though you have the efficiency discussion, you have actually business cases to run on a hydrogen engine. Well, it depends if the prices of the fuel cells or combustion engine comes down. So again, I think there will be a niche market of a few percentage points for hydrogen there.
And I think that's the important element of arbitrage in many cases, right? About the cost of technology and the cost of the fuel that will lead to the TCO or the blended TCO that any kind of let's say, logistic players or the final consumers would actually use the technology. Maybe back to you, Feilong, because you started the discussion regarding electric and hydrogen coming together. How do you see this interplay and basically the type of archetypes that you can develop, maybe on the back of geographies with higher price of, depending on which is the more advantageous, right? Either hydrogen or electric vehicles. Because, of course, you can have long corridors in which hydrogen is, but you can have also significant urban areas in which battery technology can be more suitable, and depending on the how do you see this coming together, and players maybe offering both solutions to their customers?
Good question. From the physics perspective, say per kilo energy, per kilo fuel, how much energy do you conserve? Usually the chemical fuel stay around, say, 30 megajoule to 40 megajoule, say, for gasoline or diesel. Battery technology is about 1/10 of that number, 10%. And hydrogen is about 3 times more of that number. Hydrogen reaching more than 100 megajoule per kilogram. That means even say the battery technology advance, say double, even double, that's still only 20% of the chemical fuel, right? And the hydrogen is still way there, very high energy content. So my feeling is, at least in 5 to 10 years, it's very hard for battery technology to pursue same energy density to the hydrogen level. So I think at least in the 5 to 10 years, normally we talk about commercialization, say, I think the hydrogen truck, particularly for the heavy duty, energy density, long distance, refrigerated cooling, whatever for those heavy consumption applications, my view is hydrogen will take the lead. And for the short distance run, for the fixed route, I think the battery will be good. That's my feeling, And I think speaking of this, the support for hydrogen corridor, we are start this discussion with some partner in local here. We are very interested to decarbonize the logistic route in the kingdom level. We are very interested in doing that. And we think the practical obstacle we are facing right now, number one, is regulational approval. Right now, I can say there are no ready to set approval procedure. Say you want to build a hydrogen station, where to go, how to check the box, who going to approve it. It's a new question for everybody. And I think that's the ministry's job, And number two, we need to have access to the cheaper green electricity to produce cheaper enough hydrogen too. And my target, so we need to get, say, 1 US cents per kilowatt hour electricity. That'd be ideal, but no more than 2 US cents per kilowatt hour. That convert into the less than 8 halala or 10 halala electricity price. And anybody run the electricity business here, we know the normal price for Saudi is about 20 halala. We need half the price to cut down the cost of hydrogen. As I said, we want to compete with diesel in this market, and diesel heavily subsidized. Without this lower, cheaper green electricity, the supply, it's very hard for this country to produce cost competitive hydrogen to be to develop the hydrogen ecosystem. And we are working on that. We are happy to share with anybody the progress after the meeting.
Thank you so much. Ali, coming back to you, maybe some of the lessons that we can. You already touched upon, of course, the technological advancements which happen, of course, in motorsports and that are taken towards widespread commercial applications. Which areas do you think would be the most advantaged from your current developments? Is it in terms of safety requirements, because you're operating the vehicles in extreme environments? So then a lot of these elements would be taken to extreme, and then the industry can take them back and apply them to volume production. Which ones do you think will be the most interesting to the OEMs?
Yeah, it's a super interesting one. I think racing has that DNA of performance. So when you look at, our vehicles go over 200 kilometers in really difficult environments. We've raced in Greenland, we've raced in the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. We've raced on the coast of Senegal. You look at high humidity, cold temperatures, high temperatures. We're testing this technology in as it says, in extreme environments. So I think continuing to do that and continuing to give a live lab where this technology can be developed is super important. But I still think the industry, and I go all around the world speaking to different venues, different companies, to get involved in our platform. And one of the most common sort of bits of feedback that I have is safety. People think hydrogen, they think Hindenburg, they think explosion. And I think we as an industry have a huge amount of work to do to show that you can have performance. These cars can crash at 200. They can pirouette like a ballerina in terms of the size and the scale of crash. And there's absolutely no explosions and no issues at all. And we've done a huge amount of work to test these cars. The FIA have gone to the nth degree to ensure that we have the very latest safety regulations that have been built around the series to ensure that we don't have the types of accidents that I talk about. I think that in itself, when people start to understand that actually you can go out tomorrow and buy a Toyota, you can buy a Hyundai, the cars are available at the moment. I think what's a gap is that motivation. Why? A, break down the fear. B, why? C, the performance is going to increase. And at the same time, mass adoption will bring economies of scale. And what you'll see is different industries will drive that at a different scale. But there's no doubt to me that there is a necessity, and where there's a necessity, the market will follow. And if you look at all of the forecasts, the hydrogen market is growing to, 640 billion by 2030, 1.6 trillion by 2050. This is a marketplace that has got huge growth potential and development. What we've got to do is just ensure that we become active in that development and we become an accelerator, and that's the important thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing these insights and perspectives. I'm not sure if we still have the possibility of launching the video. If not, you can guide us towards the next steps. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, just join me in thanking the speakers today and give them a well-deserved round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.